This is Kenyon from Little Giant Ladder Systems, and today we're going to demo the SumoStance. The SumoStance by Little Giant is an award-winning design, starting with the lightweight fiberglass that trims up to 20% of the weight out, but yet still holds a 300 or 375 pound weight capacity. You can tell that it is Hi-Viz Green non-conductive fiberglass, meant for use in non-conductive or electrical applications. The SumoStance is available in multiple sizes from 16 all the way to 40 in 4-foot increments. Be sure to choose the size that works best for your applications. The shade of Hi-Viz Green is a safety solution. You'll appreciate that similar to your PPE, Hi-Viz Green is the easiest shade for the human eye to perceive, a safety color. You'll also find that the rope, or referred to as the haul rope, is off to the side of the SumoStance. Traditionally, ropes will run down through the middle, but since that's where your hands and your feet are, Little Giant moved that rope to the side. So technicians, employees have a clear climbing path. This also allowed Little Giant to put a double pulley system on that rope. You'll see that there's a pulley up here towards the top of the ladder, an additional pulley down here towards my knees. So there's a mechanical advantage as you raise and lower the fly section. You have lighter material with an ergonomic side pull rope, double pulleyed, so that material feels even lighter yet, which leads to fewer strain and sprain injuries. The SumoStance that we're demonstrating today has optional features and benefits that may or may not be found on your SumoStance, but they're worth mentioning here. The bubble level on the side indicates a 4-to-1 ratio. Part of ladder safety is making sure that you achieve that 75-degree angle. So whether you need to push it in or pull it out, you'll have one more indication that your ladder is set up correctly. This SumoStance also includes the ground cue, or a bottom rung indicator, since the second leading cause of ladder injury is that people will often miscount and step off too early, leading to rolled ankles or knee injuries. That a bottom rung indicator, or the ground cue, is meant to be heard and felt, so we have that environmental awareness, knowing that the next step would be safely to the floor or the ground. Of course, with any metal moving components, make sure those are cleaned and lubricated on a regular basis. A very important component of using the SumoStance is to always set the outrigger legs at their first locking position. They do store flat for storage and transportation, but setting these out into their first engaged or locked position is where we would set this before any technician climbs the SumoStance. The SumoStance legs double our width at the base, and the math works out to be 6 times the side tip stability of a traditional extension ladder that are simply parallel or straight up and down. In order to actuate the SumoStance legs, put your thumb above the housing and then just squeeze in the orange mechanism here with your other fingers, allowing these legs to slide up and down. And find the increment that would be correct for your offset or unlevel terrain. We'll show you that in just a second. Always ensure that this mechanism is fully seated and locked into place before climbing. The SumoStance that we're demonstrating today also includes the V-bar. And the V-bar is not a V-rung, not designed to be climbed on. The V-bar is attached to the ladder fairly close to the top. And this is by design, so that as we're leaning the ladder against the exterior corner of a building or a utility pole, it engages onto that pole sooner than if it was installed farther down. With the ladder securely against the surface that would be strong enough to support the weight, then we check our angle, and again the bubble level, whether we need to push it in or pull it out, achieving that 4-to-1 ratio or 75-degree angle. Of course, that firefighter's rule, it's a good indication as well. The SumoStance that we're showing today also includes wall pads. Of course, your equipment may look and operate a little bit differently, as these are optional features. But the wall pads are designed to give you more engagement on flat surfaces. Also, taking into account the 4:1 ratio, they are designed to be parallel to the surface that we're leaning the ladder against, giving us even more surface contact with that wall. And then, let's talk about how the SumoStance got its name. We've discussed twice our width at the bottom, 6 times the side tip stability. But because these Sumo legs are independent from each other, that means that when you're on unlevel terrain, these can be adjusted independently. For something as dynamic as this rock or unlevel ground, we can adjust these legs like we did earlier by putting our thumb on the upper housing and squeezing in this orange housing with our fingertips and adjusting this to be the length or the height that would be appropriate to offset the right leg compared to the left. The bubble level that you'll find down here at the bottom is a good indication that the ladder's not leaning left or right. If I needed to adjust the left leg or the right leg, then go through that process until that bubble is right in the middle of those sites. And as with any metal moving component, we would encourage you to keep these cleaned and lubricated when they're new, and about every 6 months. If you work in extreme environments, then lubricate those maybe even more often. And we do have other related videos about lubrication, and you can find that video in the description below. The SumoStance that we're demonstrating today includes sure-set feet. These sure-set feet are a 2-position foot that can be used in the pad position or rotated into a spiked position. The difference is that there's a detent that holds it in that position, making sure that it's sure to set in either the spur or spike position, or, easier to do with your foot, into a pad position. Some additional features and benefits found on the SumoStance are worth discussing here. One of which is a nice, bright label on the 3rd rung from the top. This is a good indication that your ladder is set up 3 feet above the upper landing. Remember, that is an OSHA requirement. As we raise and lower the fly section, make sure that the rung locks go past the rung and that the flippers are engaged and that they are designed to bypass the rung as we bring it down. Always making sure that the rung locks are completely engaged and that they're fully seated before climbing it. And just a reminder again that the SumoStance is designed so that the legs are in their very first locking position before the ladder is climbed. They will come into their storage position for transportation or to fit on your existing vans and racks, but not to be climbed on in this position. Another benefit that the SumoStance has is a balance point label. This is designed to mitigate or eliminate those strain and sprain injuries that are so prevalent with extension ladders. So making sure that that balance point label is lined up with your belt or your hip, parallel to the floor or the ground, light, easy to carry, SumoStance. And a few quick reminders here. Choose the right ladder for the job, set it up correctly, and maintain 3 points of contact when you're climbing up and down any ladder. This is the SumoStance by Little Giant Ladder Systems.